Donald Trump is in trouble. He is in trouble in Iowa, where Ben Carson has opened a big lead over Donald Trump in the latest poll out today. Now, here's how Donald Trump reacted this morning to two earlier polls that had come out on Thursday and Friday showing Ben Carson with an 8-point lead in one poll and a 9-point lead in the other.
Iowa's a problem all of a sudden. You've fallen behind Ben Carson. Why?
I don't believe I did fall behind. It was one poll and a second poll. It was small polls. And I was in Iowa 3 days ago. We had a town hall that was unbelievable. It was packed. Thousands of people standing outside.
Wait. What was that first thing that he said?
I don't believe I did fall behind.
So now we know how Donald Trump reacts when he falls behind in a poll. He simply denies that he has fallen behind, and then he tries to suggest that there's something wrong with those polls. The Des Moines Register poll and the Quinnipiac University poll are both, of course, totally legitimate polls. So about 4 hours after Donald Trump said that on the Today Show this morning, the Monmouth University poll comes out, showing Ben Carson with a much bigger lead over Donald Trump, a 14-point lead. The Monmouth University poll shows Ben Carson at 32%, Donald Trump down at 18%, Ted Cruz at 10%, Marco Rubio 10%, Jeb Bush at 8%, Carly Fiorina at 5%. So now it's Ben Carson's turn in the Trump spotlight. Here is what Donald Trump said about Ben Carson on Saturday when Carson had pulled ahead of him in those first two polls.
Carson is super low. I don't understand the whole deal. I don't know what's going on. Carson is lower energy than Bush. I don't understand what's going on, because we're going to talk about the fact that for the first time in 100 days, I had a poll that said I'm in second place in Iowa. Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. Only in Iowa. The rest were killing.
And while he was at it, Donald Trump raised Ben Carson's religion, Seventh-day Adventist, a religion, like most religions, that Donald Trump doesn't know anything about.
Look, I don't have to say it. I'm Presbyterian. Can you believe it? Nobody believes I'm Presbyterian. I'm Presbyterian. I'm Presbyterian. Boy, that's down the middle of the road, folks, in all fairness. I mean, Seventh-day Adventist, I don't know about. I just don't know about.
Here is Ben Carson's response on Sunday morning.
It's kind of interesting because the conflict that we had a couple of months ago is he thought I was questioning his faith, and he went ballistic on that. So it seems a little interesting that he would now be doing that. You know, I really refuse to really get into the mud pit.
Joining us now, Casey Hunt, MSNBC political correspondent, who joins us from Boulder, Colorado, the site of Wednesday's Republican debate on CNBC. Also with us, E.J. Dionne, opinion writer for The Washington Post and an MSNBC political analyst, and Jonathan Allen, chief political correspondent for Vox. He's also the co-author of HRC, State Secrets and the Rebirth of Hillary Clinton. And joining us, Rick Wilson, Republican strategist and contributor to the Daily Beast and Politico. Rick, give us the Republican read on the Carson surge in Iowa ahead of Trump.
Well, it shows you how important the predicate for Donald was of saying I'm ahead in every poll. He is now, behind in those two. He's behind in the Wisconsin Public Radio poll behind Carson, and he's inside the margin in about 5 other surveys that are out there in the last 10 days or so. So he's getting very nervous about keeping that narrative of I'm the winner, I'm the alpha, I'm the big guy, and he's lashing out at Ben Carson, which is kind of a difficult position to be in because the guy is unbelievably likable, and people, even if they're not supporting Carson, they find him to be a nice guy and a pleasant guy and a mindful kind of guy. And so Trump's freak out on this and his complete loss of loss of control about it, I think is a preview for what's going to happen in the future. I think it's going to get louder and uglier, which is, much like Trump's casinos, the sort of way those things go downhill when they start to collapse.
Well, let's listen to what Trump said about Ben Carson's religion appropriately on Sunday morning with George Stephanopoulos.
And why raise it?
Because I just said I don't know about it. I said nothing about it. I would never say bad. I'd never say bad about any religion. And as you know, in fact, I think you just had a quote on, I said exactly, I don't know about it. So,
Ben Carson has asked.
That's not an insult.
Ben Carson has asked for an apology. Will you give it to him?
Well, I didn't say anything bad about it. I just don't know about it. You know, I would certainly give an apology if I said something bad about it, but I didn't. All I said was I don't know about it.
E.J. Dionne, your reaction to Trump on Ben Carson's religion?
Well, you know, I never knew there was prejudice against Seventh-day Adventists. We learn new things in this campaign every day. By the way, they've done some great work, the Adventists, on religious freedom. I mean, I don't think the result in Iowa is in the least bit surprising. Ben Carson has an enormous base among evangelicals who've been hearing his speeches, reading his books, and the evangelical-backed candidate usually wins in Iowa. Huckabee in 2008, Rick Santorum in 2012. And I think Trump is making it's sort of nuts to go after Ben Carson, number one. And number two, he is probably going to lose Iowa. And I don't know why he doesn't let it go and keep moving on. It's a crazy thing he's doing. And, you know, we thought he would get in trouble for talking about McCain. We thought he'd get in trouble for this or that. Could it be that Ben Carson is the guy who's going to bring him down?
And Casey Hunt, Trump still is in the lead in the polls of the states that come in, where the votes will come in after Iowa, New Hampshire. He's in the latest 38, and Carson's at 12 in the latest poll there. South Carolina, Trump is at 40, Carson's at 23. Nevada, Trump is at 38, Carson's at 22. That seems to be what the Trump campaign is focused on now.
It seems that way, Lawrence, yes. But I think a good reminder for any of these presidential campaigns is all of those polls change after the results in Iowa come in. And sometimes the voters in in New Hampshire will simply reject a candidate just because they won Iowa. And the Republican side, it's been particularly difficult to win both of those in a row. But, you know, on Carson's religion, I will say Trump has hit on possibly the one thing that he could ultimately undercut Carson with. As EJ was saying, it is pretty hard for these guys to go after Carson. He's mild-mannered. He's very well liked, especially among older white women, is a particular demographic that he seems to appeal to. But if his primary focus is going to be evangelicals, you'll remember the Romney campaign, there was a lot of private discussion about the fact that his religion ultimately was a problem for him winning there. And, you know, for a long time in American politics, being Catholic could be something that you whispered about. And frankly, what Donald Trump had to say, it wasn't a dog whistle, because a dog whistle is something you can't actually hear. And this was something that he said out loud, you know, to evangelicals in Iowa.
Yeah, but I don't, EJ, you're our senior religion correspondent here in this group. I don't see, people have said there's something of a conflict between Seventh-day Adventists and evangelicals. It strikes me as rather minor.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, the Adventists celebrate the Sabbath differently, which is why they've done good work on First Amendment rights, and one of the reasons. But I don't see that. But, I mean, Casey put her finger on, you know, trying to understand what Trump was doing, which isn't always easy. It is absolutely the case that Carson is very strong right now in Iowa among evangelicals. So he's got to undercut that vote. But I just don't see a prejudice against Adventists among evangelicals bringing him down like that.
Well, yeah, someone clearly whispered in Trump's ear that Seventh-day Adventists have, in some of their doctrine, some kind of unkind thoughts about other Christian sects, but it's not something that they make a lot of noise about, and it's pretty hard to get traction on that, I think. Anyway, Jonathan Allen, the Trump strategy will probably soon become a post-Iowa strategy. It's unclear to me how he goes into Iowa and makes up what he's lost there.
I think it's very hard, Lawrence. The only thing I would point to on that is that only 20% in that Monmouth poll of Republican caucus goers, likely caucus goers, have said that they're firm in who they're going to vote for. And I think that's got to be encouraging to some of the other candidates, some of the non-Trump, non-Carson candidates. But this strategy in Iowa is pretty unusual. Ben Carson's favorability rating in that poll was 84%. I would take 84% in my own household. You know, so going after him may not be the best strategy for Trump to build his own numbers. But after that, so what he's got to do is build a firewall. I think maybe giving up on Iowa soon is a good idea for him, because it seems, as you suggest, unlikely he's going to make up that distance.
All right, let's listen to what the new Republican frontrunner in Iowa said on Meet the Press yesterday about his energy.
I have plenty of energy, but, you know, I am soft-spoken. I do have a tendency to be relaxed. I wasn't always like that. There was a time when I was, you know, very volatile, but, you know, I changed.
When was that?
As a teenager, I would go after people with rocks and bricks and baseball bats and hammers, and of course, many people know the story when I was 14 and I tried to stab someone. And, you know, fortunately, you know, my life has been changed and I'm a very different person now.
Rick Wilson, the new Republican frontrunner in Iowa, is a very different person than he was as a teenager, which I think we can say about every candidate who's running.
Well, I think that I think that Carson's his affect is so zen and so mindful and so peaceful that it makes a lot of these attacks on him very hard to see how they work in terms of the audience in Iowa particularly. And I think in some ways with the broader Republican audience as well, it is very difficult. The guy is like a stone in the rain. It's very hard to see how that kind of attack is going to have the traction it might on another person. And he doesn't. There are two candidates in the field that Trump doesn't seem to get in their head, and that's Carson and Rubio, neither of whom seem bothered in the way that, say, Jeb gets bothered by Trump's little needling.